Welcome to the Uncensored Self Podcast. I am your host, Ryan Gillen, and this is a space where women who value achievement, success, accomplishment, and wealth, but also crave happiness, love, joy, and deep fulfillment come to remember that we get to have both. Not by doing more, but by being more of who we truly are. In this show, we explore identity, energy, alignment, and embodiment because you didn't come here to follow someone else's rules. You came to right your own. Let's dive in. I used to think my business wasn't working because I hadn't figured out the right strategy yet. That if I could just find the right plan, the right way to do things, the right sequence of steps, everything would finally click. And to be fair, it worked. It made me money. It built the business. It created results. But it also created a version of me that felt like I constantly had to figure something out. Like there was always something to fix. And what I didn't realize at the time was that my business wasn't being limited by my strategy. It was being limited by what I could actually hold. I'm Ryan Gillen. This is The Uncensored Self, and today we're kicking off a new series called The Business Beliefs I Do Not Subscribe to Anymore. And this first one, it is foundational. It's foundational for everything in my life, in everything in my body of work, and in everything in this series. And I am so excited about this conversation because we're really going to dive into how do we apply the energy game to business. So these next 8 weeks are a real deep dive into how does the energy game impact my business. We have been working, probably for 8 or 9 weeks now, right? Since we started the identity reset campaign, really diving into identity. And the question that I've been getting, what I've been coaching on inside of business therapy in my alumni group with my private clients is this idea of how does this apply to business? Okay, now what? And so that is what I'm going to break down for you in this series. But this episode is the most important one. I would start here if you are somebody who maybe you're not catching this in real time. And you're asking, should I go back and listen to this? Should I start at the beginning? The answer is yes. The answer is yes. The answer is yes. This is one that you want to start in the business, and it's very important, right? Because the first thing I want to address is the strategy trap, right? The strategy trap. And I think this is such an important part of this conversation because what we are taught as professionals, right? Regardless of your career, whether you are in a corporate role, whether you are a real estate agent, whether you are an entrepreneur, whether you are a coach, a business owner, a marketer, whatever you call yourself, right? We are taught if something isn't working in your career, in your business, and the results that you're getting, you have to fix what you're doing. You have to fix your strategy. You're taking the wrong approach, right? You need to learn something new. Maybe you need to do more things, maybe optimize things. The number of professional women who will tell me, Ryan, I just need to get my shit together, right? You're constantly asking, what do I need to do to get the result? And there's very much rooted in the idea that there's a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. And why this trap makes so much sense because it works in the beginning. Action creates results. I've never said that that's not true, right? Action creates results 100%. It does create results. It just might not feel the way that you want it to, right? It gives you something to control. People really I'm not getting the results that I want. I want to control something outside of myself. The number of, again, high achieving women who call themselves control freaks. So this idea of I'll fix the strategy because it's doing, I feel productive. I feel like I'm making a difference. I feel like I have justified what I'm asking for, right? And it feels like if you just find the right way, the correct way, everything will click. There will be nirvana, right? That's what we're sold on the internet, right? But my experience personally in this trap is I built success the way that they told me to, and it did create a number. It did create a number on a piece of paper, right? It did create a number of clients. It did create some cool shit in my life. It definitely did. But it also felt like something always needed fixing. It felt like my life was on fire all of the time, and life felt heavy, life felt hard. There was just a whole lot to it, right? And then, to make it better, worse, I don't know, right? What happens? So, okay, you want to make a change. You should start taking courses. You should start reading books. You should go to workshops. You should go to conferences. That's what we're taught. You don't like what you got? You got to get to work, right? But then when you go to those places, every single person is promising you, this is the right way. This is the correct strategy. This is what works. If you do it this way, you cannot fail. And that is actually what keeps you stuck because you're constantly looking for the right answer. You're constantly questioning yourself and you're constantly adjusting and fixing and optimizing. So what I'm going to illustrate for you in this series is that there is no universal right or wrong in business. There is no right or wrong way to do it. There is no the best way to do it. There is no the fastest way to do it. There is no guaranteed results way to do it. If there was, everyone would be doing the same thing. Everybody would be executing on the same business strategy, and everybody executing on that strategy would be getting the result. Every business would look the same. Every strategy would work or not work. And that's how we know that it's not true. We now know that the right or the wrong is not true because not everybody's doing it the same way, right? And again, guys, this doesn't just have to apply to business. So this lens for our next few weeks is very much business driven, right? But you can apply this to any area of your life. This works to health and fitness, right? There is not a right way or a wrong way to take good care of your body. There is the way that works best for you, right? Same thing in relationships. There's not a right way to be in a relationship or a wrong way to be in a relationship. There's the way that works best for you. It is exactly the same in business. So you can layer these ideas onto quite literally any area of your life, right? And the reason why people do get different results doing different things is because it's not about the strategy. It is about the person running it. It is about the person running it. So when you are looking for the right strategy, you are automatically operating from an energy of lack. I don't have it yet. I need to go find it. I need to get it right. I need to figure this out. That is an energy of lack. And that's actually what winds up keeping us in this loop, right? Strategy is rooted in doing something to get something. If you are looking for the right strategy, it's like, what do I need to do to get this? And again, it works. Energetically, it is coming from a place of lack. I don't have it yet. I need to go get it. I need to close this gap. I need to fix this. Something is wrong. And that is how we have been taught business. And I have learned the exact opposite is true. The more that we create this gap, and the more that we are doing something to get something, the more that we are driven by how can I get this thing, the more static we put in our signal. I want to be very clear. It doesn't mean you're not going to get it. I got it. I hit 7 figures. I couldn't sustain it. I couldn't sustain it because there was so much static in my signal. I was doing so much that I couldn't do anymore. So when we have that static in our signal, if I'm only doing this thing to get something, it creates pressure, it creates force, it creates attachment, overthinking, and eventually, where most of you are right now, it leads to sacrifice, self-abandonment, and prioritizing the business or your career over yourself. And that is capitalism in one motherfucking sentence. How many of us have prioritized the business, the bank account, the clients over ourselves, over our families, over our lives, over our happiness? It is crazy to even think about. Like, now that I stand on this side of this journey and I look back, I am in my heart, right? Like, holy cow, how much time did I waste prioritizing something over what's actually important to me in a meaningful way? And again, not because I want you to get less or make less, and we're going to get into that, but because that wasn't how it had to be done, right? I also want to be very clear before we keep going. I am not anti-strategy. I do think that strategy is important. Having a direction every day when you wake up is important, right? Skills matter. Being good at communicating, being good at selling, being good at marketing, being good at what you do. It matters, right? It does. But strategy or action is the last step of the creation process, not the first. So we are putting the last step of the process, the least effective step of the process, the hardest step of the process, the longest step of the process at the top of the list instead of at the bottom where it goes. What's also really, really important that we need to realize here is that strategy keeps us focused outside of ourselves because it's always on getting. If I am deploying so-and-so strategies, I'm following so-and-so's checklist, if I'm doing it the way so-and-so taught me to do it, right? It keeps me focused outside of myself instead of in the what do I want? This is why I spent so much time on energy on identity for the last 8 weeks, right? Because as long as you are focused outside of yourself, you will constantly be chasing an answer. You'll be chasing a strategy. You'll be chasing a how-to that doesn't exist. Okay? Because what wound up happening to me in the strategy regard, strategy stopped being the answers first when I was still getting the results, but it felt heavy and it felt pressure and it felt like I had to maintain, right? So this strategy thing, it did create a certain level of results in my world, but those results felt heavy and pressured. And so what I did, what any high achiever does, and I doubled down, I will just work harder, right? Then what wound up happening is that the doing stopped working. Quite literally what happened to me, guys, is the strategy that made me millions of dollars stopped working. Every single step that I had followed to get from $0 to $1.2 million in 3 years, when I deployed those exact same strategies, I could create a fraction of the results. If strategy is the answer, if the right thing is the answer, why did it stop working? And I know what you're thinking. Your logical brain is thinking, well, the market changed, Ryan, the technology changed, buyer behavior changed, blah, 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 right? And that sounds very logical, and it sounds like an excellent fucking excuse. But if we're really honest with ourselves and we tell the truth here on this podcast, that is not what changed. What changed was me. I didn't believe in it anymore. Right? I wasn't bought in on the process anymore. I didn't desire to do it. I didn't want to run my business like that any other way and actually change the level of sacrifice that I was available for. It was not a conscious choice at the time, I can tell you that, but my energy changed. There are some people, and the reason why you can tell me it was the logical things like the market and the da-da-da-da-da. There are still people out there making millions and millions of dollars deploying that strategy. I watch some of them, right? I'm still connected to some of them. I still listen to their podcasts. Sometimes I even still participate in their groups and things like that, right? They are still doing what I was doing back in from 2020 to 2022 to make $1 million. And they are still making a fuck ton of money doing it. And I couldn't recreate it after my energy changed. So you cannot convince me that strategy is what's driving business, right? But here's what's really, like I said, the strategy didn't stop working. I stopped being available for it to work. But at the time, it wasn't a conscious choice. It's not a conscious choice, but that's where this journey started for me. Because I didn't outgrow the strategy. I thought that's what had happened, right? That was the logical explanation at the time. I outgrew the version of me that was willing to operate that way. The version of me that was willing to be 60 pounds overweight. The version of me that was willing to work 60 hours a week. The version of me that was going to sit next to my children and not be able to be a presence in that space. The version of me that continued to say yes to shit she didn't want to. I outgrew that woman. And ultimately, I grew my emotional capacity. I grew my emotional capacity. That is what this series is really about, is growing your emotional capacity, because emotional capacity is your number one indicator of success. I'm going to say that again. Your emotional capacity is the number one indicator of success. Don't worry, I'm going to tell you what emotional capacity is, right? Emotional capacity is what you can hold without spiraling. Emotional capacity is what you can hold without spiraling, what you can hold without being triggered, without being stressed, without being overwhelmed, without reacting emotionally. What you can experience in your life and in your business without collapsing, without freaking out, and without needing to fix it immediately. I did not have that. I was triggered all the time. I was stressed all the time. I was constantly emotionally involved in my business all of the time. I was collapsing all the time. I was freaking out. I constantly needed to fix this thing all of the time. I did not have the emotional capacity for a $1.2 million business. I had the skills and a strategy for a $1.2 million business as proof, right? But I didn't have the emotional capacity. I couldn't hold it. That is what I have changed since 2022. I have not invested a dime in strategy since 2022. Not one penny. Because I very quickly learned that strategy is a distraction. Strategy gives me the dopamine hit. It tickles my brain. It allows me to be productive, but it's not what moves the needle. So if you're asking yourself, do I have the emotional capacity? I want you to ask yourself these questions. What conversation can you have without getting defensive? Can you have difficult conversations without getting defensive? What situation can happen without you making it mean something about you? What can go wrong without you getting into a tailspin? Because what I know about myself in this journey of life is I was defensive about everything. I was right. You were wrong. Get the fuck out of my way. Right? And every situation that went wrong, it was my fault. I was the one who fucked it up and I was going to fix it. Everything went wrong was a tailspin. And I know some version of that lives inside of you because I used to be you, right? You get in a no spiral, somebody tells you no, and then you get 3 no's in a row and oh my God, you're never going to sign another client ever again, right? A deal doesn't go your way. It starts to fall apart and you're throwing your phone and you're screaming and you're yelling at your husband about this motherfucker who wants to negotiate with me about this and this, right? An employee drops the ball and you just want to bitch, moan, and complain about how nobody wants to work anymore. And why is this so hard? And if it's so easy, I'll just do it myself, right? Something unexpected happens. You get an opportunity to work on a new project, but you are so overwhelmed because you're juggling so many balls. If that is your life or any variation of that is your life, you don't have the emotional capacity for growth. When every little thing throws you off, you are at max emotional capacity. And so you are no longer growing, you are now surviving. I went from growth mode into survival mode. At my max emotional capacity, I was not growing a business anymore. I was surviving. I went from expansion to contraction. And most high performers are operating at or near max capacity. You are operating at contraction. That is why everything feels hard. Everything feels stressful. Everything feels like, wow. This is also why I am obsessed with nervous system regulation. And I think it is one of the most powerful tools, the most simple, powerful things that you can do to change your life. Because your emotional capacity is driven by your nervous system. So when you hear, it's like a buzzword right now, nervous system regulation, this is what they're talking about, right? If your nervous system, if you are not driving, if your subconscious is driving, if you are automatically in reaction mode, you are in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, that is survival mode. If everything is a battle, you are in survival mode. right? If everything is avoidance, if you're avoiding it, so everything is a battle, or you're going to shut your laptop and you're going to go binge watch TV for 3 hours and nobody ask me any questions, right? Flight, right? Freeze. I'm just going to do nothing. Fawn, I'm just going to try to make you like me, right? All of these things are nervous system states. Your inner state is creating your reality, not your inner state like a highway, even though we do talk a lot about superhighways in my world, if you've ever been on a coaching call with me. But if you are in a dysregulated nervous system state, you are in survival mode. You are not in growth mode. And in survival mode, there is no capacity, there is no space, there is no flexibility. It's not up for discussion because the only thing your brain, your body, your nervous system is trying to do is fucking survive. And survival is more important than growth. So when my business broke and my energy shifted and my strategy was no longer working, it wasn't that I needed a new strategy. It was that I didn't have the capacity for anything different. That's why I tell you, I haven't invested a dime in strategy since 2022. My nervous system was maxed out. I was stuck in fight or flight. There's no room for ease or expansion or a different way or new ideas or good ideas. When your capacity is maxed, nothing can change. Even if you know better, even if you have the strategy, even if the opportunity is there, even if you have the skills and the experience. And guys, I'm not speaking from theory here. Your business is being driven by your internal state, your nervous system, your emotional capacity. Your business doesn't grow based on what you know. It grows based on what you can handle without collapsing. So ask yourself these questions. Can you handle more money without tightening? Most high achievers here, the answer is no. No. And you're like, wait, Ryan, I could handle more money. Could you? Or does more money just mean more pressure, more stress, more demands, more questions, more emails? Because most of the women in my world, more money, while it is a desire, it is something they want. They can't even think about a world in which they have more money because more money means more work, more time, more responsibility of them. And when you're at max emotional capacity, you ain't got more to give, right? So when you are in fight or flight, when you are really focused on the strategy and the doing, more money creates contraction. You cannot be an energetic match to more money from contraction, right? Can you handle more visibility without shrinking? For some people, the idea of being seen, of like fully, if they were to go viral on social media or get pushed out on a stage full of thousands of people with the potential of people not liking them, people disagreeing with them, people not seeing things the way they see it, they will instantly shrink. Can you handle that? If the answer is no, you can't grow. Can you handle more responsibility without adding pressure? For me, the answer was no for a very long time. For most of you, probably. Can you handle uncertainty without needing to control it? For me, this was a hell no, right? So in the height of this for me, when I was making the most money, more money, couldn't handle it. More visibility, more eyeballs, oh hell no. More responsibility, absolutely not. And uncertainty, no. It was what had me climbing out of my skin and waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning with my mind racing all the time. Business is not about what you know. It's not about what you do. It's what you can hold. How this continues to show up in your business. You make money and you immediately feel pressure to make more. Oh my God, that money came in and now it's instantly out. Oh my God. Right? You get clients and now you feel overwhelmed by all the clients that you have. This is the first step that happens in almost all of my programs. This is why most of my clients wind up working with me for longer periods of time. Most of my clients on average are staying with me for a year or more, is because we first clean up their energy to the point where they're attracting more business. And then we have to unlearn what I'm going to teach you here in this series, right? You grow, but then you add more work to justify it. The business is growing, so you make it more and more difficult, right? Things get quiet and you start panicking, start fixing, start changing, right? This is what is telling you your nervous system is at max capacity if any of these things is happening to you. You start doing more to get back to feeling safe. That's how you know that you are stuck in this strategy trap. If I do more, I feel safe. If I'm controlling, if I'm touching all the things, if I'm showing up and doing the work, you're not responding to the business. That's what you think you are doing. You're not responding to the business. You're not being proactive. You're responding to your capacity. You're responding to your nervous system. And most high performers get stuck here because you have the strategy, the skills, and the access, right? You know how to do it right. You have been honing your skills for fucking years and you have enough money to get in the right rooms. So you keep trying to solve it the same way. More information, more effort, more doing, because doing has always worked. It is your tried and true. It is your bestie. I can outwork anybody. And guys, I know this to my core. I could outwork fucking anyone. Try me. But what I learned is that you cannot out-strategize your identity. You cannot out-strategize your nervous system. Because what changes when capacity expands? Business feels lighter. Decisions feel cleaner. There's less reaction, more stability, growth without chaos. Capacity, increased capacity. This work is not about doing less. So many people, when we talk about ease and flow and working less, I think have the mistaken assumption that that means that we're going to make less money, we're going to be less successful, or we're going to be less impactful. It's the exact fucking opposite. You are going to make more money. You are going to have an even bigger impact. Your life is going to be even more fulfilling. When you expand your capacity, business feels lighter. When business feels lighter, you can handle more. When your decisions are clear, you don't waste your life force energy chewing over a decision you made fucking 6 months ago and are afraid to own. Right? When you're not reacting to everything going on around you, there's more stability. Your signal gets clearer and what you're available for is clearer. And the chaos goes away. But what is the most powerful thing here when you get out of the strategy trap, when you stop playing the energy game or stop playing the mind game, you stop needing the business to prove something and you stop using action to regulate how you feel. That sums up my work in 2 fucking sentences. You stop needing the business to prove something and you stop using action to regulate how you feel. That is when you are running an aligned fucking business. Because business doesn't have to be heavy, complicated, or stressful. That's just the program we have been sold. So everything that we're going to talk about in this 8-week series, it is going to be mind-bending and exciting and fun. And I'm going to challenge your beliefs to their fucking core. And this is every single one of the beliefs that I have challenged over the last, I don't even know how many years at this point, 5 years, 6 years. I've challenged all of these beliefs. I've built completely new beliefs and I have a completely different experience of life and of business than most people. We're going to talk about building business from the energy of lack. We're going to talk about strategy. We're going to talk about people. Business is about people. How do we interact with other people? We're going to talk about marketing and sales because who has a business without client acquisition, right? We're going to talk about effort. How much work is actually required? How much control do I actually had? Because every single one of these things is a different expression of this same problem. Every problem, and y'all know I don't like the word problem, right? In your business is pointing back to your emotional capacity. It is what you can or can't hold. Period, end of. Everything that isn't going right in your business is pointing back to what you can or can't hold. And the real mind fuck of all of this is that it might not even be rooted in business. Because most of my clients, when we get into this work, the thing that's holding their capacity, their emotional capacity back isn't actually the business. The business is merely how it's showing up. It's because the business is how you express yourself. If this conversation made you feel something today, maybe in a way that you haven't in a long time, if you're starting to see, fuck, that's what this is. If you're starting to see it's not about doing more, it's about becoming someone who can hold more. This is the work. This is the work we do inside business therapy. And over the next few weeks, I'm going to show you exactly how to shift through this, how this shows up in your business. If you want to take the work further, let's have a conversation. I'm so excited about this experience, about this series, about this content. It is the best content I have ever put out. I think it's going to be the most impactful content that I've ever put out. And I'm really excited to hear what you think about it. So let me know. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Uncensored Self podcast. If this conversation cracked something open for you, trust that that's the work. And share this episode with a woman in your life who's ready to stop performing and start creating. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe, leave a review. It helps this message reach the women who need it most. Remember, you're the creator. The rules are yours, and your uncensored self, she already knows what to do. Keep leading, keep listening, keep becoming.